Welcome to the quick guide to Yor'Sahj Heroic. This will realistically be the second boss of the raid tier, and while it's a boss that is certainly harder than Morjok, it will be one that most guilds will be able to clear rather easily. For your raid comp, you want to bring 1 tank on 10 man and 2 on 25 man during progression. For your healer comp, you want to bring 2 to 3 healers on 10 man and 5 to 6 healers on 25 man. The enrage timer is extremely forgiving, so err on the side of caution when it comes to setup. Bring at least 1 DK to your raid, but with the current state of tanking, that should not be a problem. The boss has only 2 phases that rotate over and over until either you or the boss is dead. 1 normal phase where you'll deal with all of his mechanics, and 1 ooze phase where you have to kill 1 out of 4 oozes that spawn, more on that mechanic later. The boss himself only has 1 mechanic, and that is Void Bolt, a stacking damage buff on the tank that deals magical damage every 2 seconds. On 10 man, you let this damage buff stack throughout the normal phase before it naturally drops during the ooze phase. On 25 man, however, you want to tank swap this mechanic at 2 stacks to make the incoming damage a bit more manageable. AMS from DKs do not prevent the application of the stack, but it does reduce damage significantly. After about 23 seconds into the fight, you'll enter the first ooze phase. In this phase, they'll spawn 4 oozes around the room with a rather large health pool. Each ooze will have a color and a designated spawn point. Each color will be associated with the mechanic that the boss will get for the duration of his normal phase until the next oozes spawn. However, killing an ooze before it reaches the boss will make it so that he doesn't get the buff, and thus choosing which ooze to kill will be of huge importance in determining how successful you'll be in completing the fight. There are 6 oozes, so let's talk about each one and then about how to deal with the different combination of oozes. Black ooze. This will spawn small adds that fixate on random raid members. This is a very low kill priority, so always let it through and simply cleave down the adds with a boss. Blue ooze. This will at the beginning of the phase make the boss completely drain your mana to 0 and spawn an orb that serves as a bit of a mana battery to regain the mana he drained from you after you kill it. It may be tempting to nuke it down right away, but keep it alive until the next blue orb spawns so you can instantly kill the old orb in order to regain your mana. Use Hymn of Hope, the Innervate, Divine Plea, and whatever you have to do to regain mana after the first drain. Once you kill it, it'll give back mana to everyone in 25 yards, so make sure you have a Death Knight to grip the orb into the boss to ensure that everyone gets their mana back. Red ooze. This requires you to stack close to the boss, who'll shoot out a fiery chain lightning that will do more damage the further it bounces. It'll target 3 people on 10 man and 8 on 25 man. It'll prefer targets furthest away, so if you want to avoid taking double Searing Bloods, move closer to the boss after taking an attack. Green ooze. This requires you to spread. It'll do a splash AoE damage to everyone in 4 yards. Having green in combinations with red or yellow is very deadly. Yellow ooze. This ooze is the most dangerous and is generally the highest kill priority. It does high AoE damage through AoE Void Bolt, but also increases the cast rate of his other spells by 100% and increases his melee attack speed by 50%. Ideally, you'll only have to deal with this ooze once throughout the fight. Tanks should be wary and use strong defensive cooldowns when yellow is active. Purple ooze. This requires your healers to be awake. Everyone in your raid will get a 25-second debuff. This debuff on its own doesn't do anything, but when you take a direct heal, you gain a stack of Deep Corruption. This stack doesn't do anything on its own, but if someone is healed while they are on 5 stacks, it will explode and the raid will take massive damage. There are a ton of weird interactions of what gains a stack and what doesn't. I'll leave a link to a Wowhead comment below that outlines which spells give a stack and which don't. But for the love of God, don't use Holy Fire as a Disc Priest and don't use Tranquility as a Resto Druid. Okay, so those are the mechanics of the fight. Let's talk about the ooze combinations. You'll only ever have 6 combinations which are on the screen right now. You generally want to prioritize yellow over green and never kill any other ooze. The only exception to this is when yellow, red, green, and black spawn, at which point you want to kill green, stack up, use lust, and pretty much every defensive cooldown your raid has to offer. Keep in mind that since you're combining yellow with black, you'll get 2 sets of adds during this phase. The only other combination that is somewhat scary is yellow purple, red, and black. Having some strong raid cooldowns for this phase will be very nice, and don't be afraid to move closer to the boss after taking a hit of Searing Blood to avoid taking damage from it twice while you have the healing debuff. Having a weak aura or boss mods to quickly identify which combinations of oozes you're dealing with and to identify which ooze to kill will be critical for this fight. This fight really just comes down to managing the healing debuff while using strong defensive cooldowns during the dangerous overlaps. Assuming you can do that, then this boss will go down with ease. And that's how you kill Yor'Sahj on Heroic. Subscribe for more quick guides and click the link on the screen right now to watch the rest of the guides from Dragon Soul.